Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. So, this is your host, DJ Joe, and in this segment, we're going to recap week three of the Toronto Raptors. And as you guys remember, last time out, when we recap week two, we were doing the preview when they played the Boston Celtics. And that game wasn't a great game to watch because they were good in the first half, but the second half they got back in the game, but they couldn't get it done. And the good thing about the first half in that game was Jason Tatum was shooting 2 for 15 from the floor. So he wasn't shooting the ball well, but the Raptors were playing great defense. Everyone was doing their thing, but once the second half started, that's when Jason Tatum got back into the game, and that's what killed the Raptors because they were playing from behind almost the whole game. And even in the second half, even when Jason Tatum got back in the game and started shooting lights out, the Raptors were playing much better defensively. And in the fourth quarter, they were down as much as five, but they couldn't get that extra made shot, that free throw. Siakam did not play well. Siakam couldn't make free throws again. And we're going to talk about Pascal Siakam because Pascal Siakam, his every game he has played, his minutes went up and he's been playing better. But the thing that he hasn't been doing consistently is his free throw shooting. So Pascal Siakam need to improve his free throw shooting because his percentage right now is embarrassing. Is under 63%, and that's not great. And his free throw shooting needs to improve if the Raptors need to win these close big games. Example like the Boston Celtics. And they just couldn't get it done in a fourth, and it was just another loss to their schedule. Because they increased their three-game losing streak after winning a season high of five straight. So the Celtics won 104-88. And the next game, where they played the Philadelphia 76ers, and they had to play this game in a good way. Because going to my Philadelphia 76ers arena, it won't be easy. And the 76ers got Tobias Harris. Curry came back. But for the 76ers, we'll talk about them in a different episode. But for the Raptors, they played much better. They had an amazing start and they had a wonderful finish. And the player that played amazing in this one was Fred Van Fleet. And not just Fred Van Fleet, Gary Trent Jr. was hitting big shots from the floor. And Steady Freddy had 32 points. And he was not the main reason, but one of the reasons why they won that game, as he shot 6 for 11 from downtown, also had 6 rebounds and 7 assists. And also Gary Trent Jr., whose scoring has been up the last 3 games, and Gary Trent Jr. had 20 points. He's been shooting the ball well, but we'll talk about what happened in the game on Saturday, which they couldn't hit shots. But Scotty Barnes, guys, he will win Rookie of the Year because he's a double double machine. Not only is he a rebounding machine, but he's also a double double machine already in his first year. And everyone played big minutes against the 76ers as they only won by 6. They were down late in the fourth, they were down early in the second because the Raptors scored 25, but the Sixers scored 27 because in the first half the Sixers was up 57 to 38. to 42. So it was a big lead that the Sixers had in the first half, but the Raptors scored 29 in the third and a season high 34 points in the fourth quarter. And OG Ananobi had 20 in this one, and the one player that didn't play well was Precious Achua as he shot 1 for 10 from the floor, and that was the game where Pascal Siakam did not play as he was resting from back to back. But overall, even Chris Boucher had his best game of the season, had 17 points and 6 rebounds. And you know, Boucher is not playing tonight against the Blazers, in which we'll talk in just a moment. Boucher hasn't been playing quite well. He was dropped in the fantasy league that I play in, and he was also dropped in the other fantasy league that I also play. And in fact, in one of the leagues, um, like a different league, I have Boucher, OG, and Scotty Barnes, and I dropped Chris Boucher after the first week, and I don't plan on bringing him back into my team because he is struggling off the bench, and I know he's had an injury and he's got injured again. But for the Raptors, we need Chris Boucher to play much, much better because, as if right now, the Toronto Raptors are one player away from being a true playoff contender. Not a true NBA final or championship contender, but because right now they're all right. Because the way they're playing now is like eighth, ninth, 10. But they just need that one player that can make big shots and can do everything on the floor, can make them a 6 seed or even a 5 seed. Because right now, at that moment, the Raptors are 5-1 on the road. And that's a good record to start the season on the road. Because to be honest, they've been on the road. In fact, yes, they're 5-1 on the road. The Raptors are, and it's hilarious because last season they were basically on the road all season long, and they struggled. And for them to be 5-1, yes, 5-1 on the road is very, very good. But another thing that they're struggling with right now is home. They're not playing that great Toronto Raptors basketball on home, and they need to improve that because right now they are 2-6 at home, and you know that the formerly called ACC, the Scotiabank place, uh, they need to play much better at home. But the last game that they played, Raptors did, was a Saturday night. It was basketball night in Canada as they wore the City Edition jerseys. And these jerseys made by OVO are amazing. They look nice. But the Raptors need to play better at home. And the players that did play well on Saturday night in a losing effort was Spicy P. Pascal Siakam. And to be honest, guys, on Saturday, everyone played well for Toronto. Like, there was no like a bad, like, everyone missed shots down the stretch. And remember, the Raptors scored season high 121 without Fred Van Fleet. Without Fred Van Fleet. And Pascal Siakam just went off with 25 points, 12 boards, 7 dimes, was efficient from the floor, played his season high in minutes, shot 2 for 3 from downtown, 1 steal, only 2 turnovers, but fouls. And not just Pascal, just because he fouled out, but the Toronto Raptors on the foul side, the refs were all over them because they had 25 fouls. And everyone played like nobody played horrible, but like Benton, yes, he had 12 points, 3 boards, but he was a minus 16 and that wasn't good because the Pistons started the fourth on a 15-0 run and ended the quarter on a 34-26 run. So you can't let a bottom basement team coming into your arena and scoring 127 points. And the Raptors need to play much better at home. And I know they won't face the Pistons until January the 14th. But the Raptors need to play much better at home. And Gary Trent Jr., as I said a moment ago, that his scoring has went up, which is good, because that's what he brings. That's what they trade for. That's what they acquired for Norman Powell, Norm the Storm. And Gary Trent Jr. against Detroit played over 38 minutes a game, 23 points, had 3 steals. And did you guys know the number one guy in the NBA in steals is your man, Gary Trent Jr.? So he shot the three all right, but he missed three straight threes in the fourth, and two of those threes was in the dying minute and seconds. Goran Dragic had a season high in points. He played all right with 16 points, 5 boards, 3 assists, and 2 steals. He was playing in place of Steady Freddy, and expect Fred VanVleet to be back for their game tonight against the um, Portland Trailblazers. Um, but Siakam played really, really well, but it's tough that they couldn't get shots to fall because they did miss like 8 shots in the dying seconds and minute. But it's all right. It's all right. They gotta get used to not having their stars, as they missed like Pascal the first like they were the first 10, 12 games. They missed Fred Van Fleet for the first time, so it's all right. They will bounce back, and Steady Freddy is going to bounce back tonight, as they will play on the road, which they lost once at a possible six, possible five. So expect them to play well tonight. So yes, they're 5-1 on the road. And for the Portland, I want to make just a little opinion on the Blazers. The Portland Trailblazers are not going anywhere because they're now 6-8. Yes, they're 5-1 at home, but they're 6-8. And the Portland Trailblazers need to do something about that. Should they trade Dame Dalla? Should they trade CJ? Should they trade Nurkic? It's a lot of question because Carmelo Anthony was a good piece for the Blazers, but the Blazers choked in the playoffs once again, and that's the problem. They need someone to. Yes, CJ averaging 20 points, Dame's averaging like 25 points and 8 dimes, but we just need. They don't have that guy. Because other than Damian Lillard and CJ, they don't have that guy. And I think the Blazers are missing a real guy. Maybe Melo wasn't that guy for them, but they need that guy for the Blazers. But guys, that's it for the recap. The recap of Week 3 of your Toronto Raptors. As you guys all know, they play tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time, as they will play the 6-8 Trailblazers. Make sure to tune in on TSN, or if you're in the States, you tune in to Fox Sports in Oregon to watch your Trailblazers. But tune in tonight, and we'll be back tomorrow with a recap of our other teams. As our next episode will be the recap of What About Them Cowboys? And I won't spoil that episode now, as make sure to tune in to our next episode, in which we'll talk what a game it was between the Falcons and the Dallas Cowboys. But guys, thanks for tuning in to a segment of the Grind Never Stops podcast. Um, I would like to thank everyone who has tuned in to our podcast, either on Spotify, um, And by the way, we will be having our own store on Shopify. It'll be opening up in a couple weeks or months, but the website is still in construction. But I'll update you as we open our store. But guys, thanks for tuning in, and I want to appreciate all the 100 views I got on my last episode as we recapped the last week's Dallas Cowboys disappointing loss. And thanks for all the 335 subs. Help us grind to 501k, and make sure to follow us on IG, Facebook, and all your podcast media platforms. And you can, if you also want to send a donation to help us with our futures of our podcast, increase our microphone, because I know we have been getting a lot of comments how horrible our microphone is. So we're trying to improve that. But thanks a lot